Hi, it's Will from StormTheCastle.com, and this is a tutorial on bottling mead. And not so much the process of how to put the corks in the bottles, but I answer a lot of the basic questions when it comes to bottling mead. There are 6 things that I'll cover here in this tutorial. When should you bottle? That's, of course, one of the biggest questions. I'll look at the types of bottles. I'll look at the corks. I will explain to you what you have to do just to do simple bottling, where you just put your mead in bottles. I will also go over what you need to do if you want to sweeten your mead before you bottle it to make it a little sweeter. And finally, I will go over carbonating your mead if you want to make it a champagne style type of mead where it has carbonation. It's sparkling mead, or also called a sparkling mead. So I'll cover those 6 topics. And let me get started. First, let's take a quick look here at some of the materials that I have. Of course, I just bottled, there's 36 bottles of mead there. I have a corker, I have some chemicals, potassium sorbate, and I also have potassium metabisulfite, and I'll explain those to you. A small pan with cover. I have a hydrometer for measuring specific gravity, and did I say I have corks? Let me cover now here the when to bottle. It's a big question that I get a lot of people send me emails about when to bottle, and there's a couple of things I can say. If you have a hydrometer that measures the specific gravity of the mead, then you're pretty good. This is a hydrometer here. It's an inexpensive tool, and typically when the specific gravity of your mead drops by 0.1 from the beginning specific gravity, then you're ready to bottle it. Now, if you don't have a hydrometer, what you can do is you can just wait it out, wait a long period of time to bottle your mead. But here I have here a bottle of mead with an airlock on it, and when you first, for a couple of weeks there, that airlock is going to be bubbling. Over a period of time, it's going to bubble less and less and less until finally it stops bubbling. And when it stops bubbling, you can wait 2 or 3 weeks, and then it's ready to bottle. So that's pretty much, the ferment is pretty much done at that time. And if you haven't noticed it, I would say wait at least 6 to 8 weeks, and then you're probably okay to bottle. But the thing about it is, you want that ferment to be done, because if it's still fermenting, then it's going to either explode the bottle or pop the cork right out of it, and you don't want that to happen. So 0.1 specific gravity drop, or when the airlock stops bubbling, wait another 2 weeks, and then you can bottle. There are 4 typical styles of bottles that are used. The Claret or Bordeaux style, which is this shape. There is the champagne style, which I don't have shown here. There's the flute style, which has a very long neck. And then there's the Burgundian or Burgundy style bottle here. And they come in different colors, you can see. I prefer the Claret style bottle, or Bordeaux style bottle, in clear so you can see the mead. And the corks I like to use are number 9 1.5-inch corks. And those are the best. I've tried a lot of different corks, and I like the number 9 1.5-inch corks. They're inexpensive and they work really well. Corks, if you use a dry cork, or if you go too fast with a cork, you can end up with not a very good seal on the bottle, or you can end up with pieces of cork inside that bottle there. If you can see that piece of cork flowing inside there because a piece of the cork broke off. So what you want to do is prepare your corks before bottling by putting a couple inches of water in a pan, bringing it to a boil, adding your dozen or so corks in there, however many corks you need, taking it off the fire and covering and let it steam for a few minutes. So as you're bottling, and put that aside, as you bottle and you're going to cork, take a cork out and cork it right in the bottle. And that softens it nice, and it'll go nice and smoothly. And take your time and press the cork into the bottle nice and slow. So let's talk about simple bottling. If all you're doing is just simply wanting to get your mead into bottles from the jug or the carboy, then you can just put it right in there and cork it right up. I do recommend, if possible, to add a chemical called potassium sorbate to the mead. Now, you don't have to. If you're a new mead maker, then it'll be okay. Your mead will be fine. But potassium sorbate, what that does is it stabilizes, and it'll preserve the color and the flavor of the mead over a long period of time. So you may want to add some of that into your large jug before you bottle. And typically, now it varies from manufacturer to manufacturer. Typically, it's about a half a teaspoon to a gallon of mead. So you may want to consider adding that in. You add that in, you mix it in, you stir it, and then you bottle. Now let's say you want to, now another big question is people like to sweeten their mead to make it a little bit sweeter. A couple of things I want to say about that is typically you'll add more honey to it. And you don't want your mead to re-ferment, you just want it to be sweeter. So this is what you should do. You should add, take your jug, your gallon or your 5-gallon jug, add potassium sorbate and potassium metabisulfite to it. Now these two chemicals, what they do is, the potassium sorbate will preserve the color and the flavor. The potassium metabisulfite will prevent a re-ferment. If you're adding more honey there, there's a potential that the yeast would be attracted to that honey and re-ferment. You don't want that to happen. You want the ferment to be done. So you add those two chemicals and set your jug aside for 2 days. And after that, then you can add your honey to the jug. And typically, now this is very based on flavor, typically about a quarter cup of honey per gallon of mead. So maybe I would go with a cup of honey to a 5-gallon carboy, and that'll be fine. So you add that in, you've done your potassium sorbate and your potassium metabisulfite, you've waited 2 days, you've added your honey, you stirred it in, and now you can bottle it. Now let me cover one last thing here, and that's carbonating your mead. Let's say you want to make a sparkling mead, like a champagne style mead. What you should do is add somewhere around a quarter of a cup of honey to 2/3 of a cup of honey, a half a cup of honey to 2/3 of a cup of honey to 5 gallons of mead. And if you're only doing a 1-gallon batch, do the math to figure out how much you need. And you stir that in, and then you switch to champagne style bottles and bottle it. As simple as that. So you should switch to champagne style bottles, because what's going to happen is you've added that honey in, and now your mead is going to re-ferment and cause the carbonation. And that's going to be trapped inside that bottle, and you don't want that bottle to explode. If you use a typical style bottle, then it could explode or the corks would pop. So if you're carbonating 1/2 to 2/3 a cup of honey for 5 gallons of mead, stir it in well and bottle it right up and set it aside. It'll take 1 or 2 weeks before the carbonation actually builds up inside that bottle. So that's all my tips on bottling your mead. Have fun, and just send me an email if or send me a picture of your mead. Visit my website at www.stormthecastle.com.